As a journalist, I couldn't find any Republican in New York to talk to me. So I was like, I'll just start dating Republicans. And then I accidentally found all these far right guys. And I was like, what is it? And he was like, well, what do you think it is? And I was like, it looks like a swastika. He was like, yeah.
This is Vera Papisova. She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
Hey, you're Vera, the investigative journalist who went undercover on the alt-right.
Yeah.
Can I interview you? I'll buy you a coffee.
Sure.
What's your go-to order?
A Turkish coffee from Lion's Milk.
Done. You went undercover on a far-right dating app.
Yes.
Can you say the name of the dating app?
No.
Why can't you say the name of the dating app?
Because I don't want to platform a dating app that wouldn't take down a profile of someone with a swastika tattoo.
Just for the record, she hasn't said the name of the dating app, but I think we know which dating app she's talking about.
They were so insecure because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
When did you do this?
This was 2024 when I started covering the election as a journalist around this time, and I couldn't find any Republican in New York to talk to me. So I was like, I'll just start dating Republicans. And then I accidentally found all these far right guys doing that. I was like, please, can someone talk to me? I want to know why you guys are so excited and want to win, and why the Democrats are all burnt out, don't want to talk about the election, and are acting like fucking losers when it's March and the election is in November. This was not a planned, premeditated anything. I was really trying to do personal research, and I just am methods. So I was like, okay, I don't know what Republicans are thinking because they won't talk to any journalist. So I'm just going to talk to them in a dating setting.
That entire time, I'm traveling the country, going to MAGA rallies, trying to get people to talk to me. And you're like, hey, I'm just going to go on a dating app in New York. That could have
been you. You could have done that with a bunch of conservative girls.
I can't tell you which is worse, flying around to a bunch of MAGA rallies and doing that, or dating a bunch of conservative women in New York. I don't know. You know what?
Honestly, I have never spent an entire year in New York not paying for a date. So I will give the MAGA boys that. They paid for all my dates.
Because their attitude was, well, you shouldn't be working and having your own money.
Totally.
You shouldn't even have a bank account. What is this? What is this your own money thing?
Because it's an app for conservatives, and these guys are looking for a wife. So I'm asking them, what are you looking for in a wife? How are you going to be raising your family? Because they don't want someone who's going to be working. And then that is how, before even going on a date, I can learn they don't even think women should be voting.
The Democrats, they cheat. They say they stole the election. If we didn't have the 19th Amendment, the Democrats would have lost every election since FDR. For the record, this was totally not date right.
Correct.
You shouldn't think that this is date right at all. She never said it. I never said it. So
I don't
why?
even know who that is.
Neither do I. Tell me about a typical date.
I went to church with a white supremacist.
How do you know he was a white supremacist?
His dating profile said anti-white genocide. I don't use these terms loosely. Yeah, it was the white empowerment in the bio.
Anti-white genocide, and he put that in his dating profile.
I asked him, what is white genocide? He basically was explaining to me that us as a society, apparently we don't celebrate white couples and white family units, while every other
race just gets a parade. Yeah. I mean, when black people go on dates, we've all been to those parades.
Yeah. What this guy was telling me was okay, so if we're celebrating a black couple for staying within their race, and if we're celebrating Jewish couples for staying within their race, then why can't we celebrate white couples for staying within their race? I was I never thought about that. I've never thought of that. And he was yeah, we need to be able to empower white couples, and we need healthy white identity. Then he got into the school system, and he was saying all this white guilt is poisoning white kids. And I was what white guilt? I didn't know, okay? I didn't know about this, so I'm explaining to you the way that if this is redundant or had never heard any of this. So I was just like, okay, what white guilt in the schools? This is when I realized this is what they are talking about when they think the school system is like too woke. So it's basically just like teaching accurate American history, I guess, is like.
American history books should just be the American flag and oil paintings of the founding fathers, pictures of Mount Rushmore, but don't tell them anything about Mount Rushmore at all. There's like multiple people that wouldn't sign the Declaration of Independence until they codified slavery.
What do you think the 13 colonies were? You come to another land, you create 13 colonies. What is that? Colonizing. So we are colonizers. When you grow up in New England, that's the history that you learn, which is I grew up in Massachusetts, and then you go and you visit like the reservations and you learn their history. He said that creating healthy white family units is how we can begin to erase what's like the damage that's being done.
What is a white person? That's like, it's not even a real identity. Irish identity, Irish pride, Italian pride, cheering for your soccer team.
When he said, do you want to go to church instead of getting a drink? I said, yeah. And so then on the date where we went to church, I really thought there was like a part of me where I was like, I can fix him. Like he wasn't even saying anything bad about anyone else. And I was like, maybe he's confused. Then at church, when we went to the church, I asked him, what are you looking for in a girlfriend? What are you looking for in a wife? And he said, biblical patriarchy. Church was the first date.
That was the first date.
Yeah, so everything that I described up until church, like that was just talking.
He gave you all of that before you even met him at church. I thought you had been on like 3 or 4 dates.
No.
Vera Papisova spent a year on a conservative dating app, except she wasn't matching with men worried about the economy. She was matching with men ruled by fear and insecurity. Fear they were taught through religion, tradition, and what's sold as unbiased news. Her reporting shows that these platforms aren't just attracting disillusioned or isolated people. They create spaces where toxic ideas aren't challenged, they're reinforced. And that's why I think Ground News is one of the best platforms to expose this weaponized ideology before we let it shape our beliefs. Their app and website pulls in every perspective on polarizing issues, then breaks down each source's political bias, how credible or radical their reporting is, and who owns them. That way you understand news isn't just reported, narratives are crafted. So I got my viewers 40% off the unlimited access Vantage plan that I've been using. Just go to groundnews.com/Walter or click the link in the description. That's $5 a month to let people's agendas stop controlling what you think. They even have a blind spot feed. It's one of my favorite features that actually made me want to start working with Ground News in the first place. It's dedicated to showing you the critical context missing from your newsfeed and your algorithm. Notice how many unbiased news outlets actually lean left or right, and all the articles and stories they'd rather not report on. That's the blind spot feed. The past few months have been absolute chaos, and let's be real, we're going to be dealing with this for at least 4 years. Hopefully only 4 years. So if you care about where these radicalized lies are leading our country, this app should already be on your phone. So go to groundnews.com/Walter, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description and get access to a tool that helps you see the bias shaping media and our minds.
So you went on the church date with the guy. Did you feel safe?
My security consultant is a former Navy SEAL, Black Ops guy, and he told me that the dates could only be in public settings to digest
Did this
that.
guy do anything to make you feel unsafe?
I don't love like being kind of like weirdly touched in a church.
I'm sorry. Half of this is funny, but there's also sexual assault and involved, and this is, stuff being touching without consent. But it's
Okay,
just
but on
so
the other hand,
fucking
I have to
wild.
say-
Like, what the
I
fuck?
have to say something, which is if I was on a date with someone that I was really into and he maybe tried to push touching me, I would welcome it if I had chemistry with a guy. Just that it was in a church. I was like, you're gonna touch my ass in a church? I had to watch A Walk to Remember starring Mandy Moore to figure out what the fuck to wear to church. And I was like, okay, so a Reformation dress, a cardigan, because that's what the preacher's daughter kind of wears.
Really? I know, we're so New York. We're like, let's go to Reformation.
Literally.
You were like, I'm not gonna go to Lily Pulitzer. You're like, I'm not. Give me another crazy date.
Okay, so one time I went to omakase with this guy who ended up having a swastika tattoo that he just got. Like it was like fresh. The tattoo was in the style of a stick and poke. It was a fucking stick and poke.
And anyone at the restaurant could see this?
There were like 10 people there total. It was a really intimate counter, actually.
Did you ask him about it, like why he got it?
Yeah. And I was like, what is it? And he was like, well, what do you think it is? And I was like, it looks like a swastika. He was like, yeah. And I was like, to be clear, is this Adolf Hitler's swastika?
Kanye West's swastika, Elon Musk's swastika.
Yeah, like,
Is it Hitler?
I was like, from what I understand, this has to do with hating Jewish people, supporting and planning organized attacks against the Jewish community. Is that what that's about? He was like, this is about something that's so much bigger than what you think it is.
That's the worst answer. I mean, I know it looks like a swastika. And yeah, traditionally it's about hating the Jews, but it's so much bigger than that. It's about hating Jews and just LGBTQ and so many more. Do you have a minute?
Was it on his arm?
Yeah, it was on his arm.
Like, wait, where was it?
It was like right here, and he was wearing a t-shirt. So it was just like right here. Like, it was like, I was shocked.
He walked around New York City like this?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he had other tattoos on his arm. His tattoo collection actually reminds me of, in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Russell Brand's character.
I met Russell Brand. Very brief. Thanks for being here. It's time that you went full mask off as a total Nazi. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. He knows. I just went up to him and said he's a Nazi.
Is he everything that you think that he would be?
Pretty much.
As a journalist, I can't say that it's a neo-Nazi meeting unless they called it that in my presence. He was like, there's a really great group of people who are all independent thinkers. And at this point, he knew that what I valued was people who thought for themselves. Like, that's a real value that I have. So he's using that language to like level with me. And he's like, this is, there are many independent thinkers who think for themselves. You'd be surprised. I think you really like these people. So obviously I want to go.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Take us there.
Yeah.
What are we calling this?
It's a monthly political meeting.
It's a monthly political, all white people,
okay, as a journalist,
swastika tattoos. It's
I
a
know.
monthly political
I know.
meeting.
As a journalist, I can't say that it's a neo-Nazi meeting unless they called it that in my presence. You call it whatever you want.
I'm not a journalist.
Yes. Call it what you want. I'll give you I'm giving you the facts.
So
you can string them together. So we're in the meeting. This guy's a swastika tattoo and he loves Nick Fuentes. And there are two women at this meeting that I didn't expect to be there at all. The fact that there were other women there, I was like, are they okay? Like, are they in these relationships? Like, are they here like on their own free will?
wait, what did they talk about at this meeting?
Oh, they pretty much spent the whole time talking about their relationship problems. Like, this one guy started off.
No, wait. No. Okay, we're going to rewind.
Yeah.
So you get to the meeting that's totally not a neo-Nazi meeting at all. It's just a political group that meets once a month.
And there are women there.
This became a support group for relationship problems.
Yeah, like this one guy said that he was really pissed off and he did some things he wasn't proud of because his girlfriend's been like dismissing the rules. This is when my ears perked up. So this guy starts off with saying like he's been telling his girlfriend that he doesn't like when she goes out in co-ed groups without him. And she's still doing it. And I have no judgment on that. I don't know their relationship. But then these three other guys in this group at this meeting started giving him advice on how to make her obey. Talking about you have to train them. Talking about her like she's a dog.
How do you train her?
They basically were describing like an abusive relationship. And they were like, okay, start with holding money. Don't give her any acknowledgement for 48 hours. I know it's really hard. Do not acknowledge her. They started talking about a punishment and reward system, the narcissistic abuse cycle and what that looks like. And they were basically just like describing that. Like it's like love bombing. They use the term rewarding. So like when she does one thing right, like exaggerate with rewards the first time. And then if she does it again, slightly less. And again, slightly less. Because if you reward her less every single time for doing the right thing, then she'll get it in her head that she has to do more. And they talked about like sex too. Like they talked about like
Withhold sex.
No, not withholding sex, forcing her after you ignore her. So they were talking about like that's
Sexual assault. Okay, yeah. They're recommending emotional abuse, emotional warfare, sexual assault.
Yes, because that's how you teach women how to respect their man, based according to these guys. And there are some questions too, like what do you do if? And that's kind of when I realized like some of these guys are like incels, because they were just like asking like like, what do you do if she doesn't suck your dick? Like that was a question. And I was just like, oh my God, that came from like a 40-year-old man.
That is a normal like 10th grade question.
What do you do if she
like,
doesn't
bro.
suck your dick? Because they were in the middle of talking about like, what do you do if like she's not like preparing your like meals or whatever? Because it's based on like what the guy wants from his wife or girlfriend. So they were like, yeah, it's flexible. It depends on what do you want out of your wife. What do you want out of your woman? And then you train them accordingly, but ultimately they should be respecting you as the voice of authority. So then this one guy just totally out of pocket, what do you do if they don't suck your dick?
I'm trying to imagine him asking it in like a, like he was just very pensive. I was like, all right. And this was in earnest. And he was like, excuse me, I have, yes, John,
but like,
John,
and then I
John W. Like I'm imagining like the reveal scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin in the beginning when they're all going around talking about sex stories, and like Steve Carell like tries to fit in, and they're like, wait, what? Have you been with a woman? And he's like, oh, but what? Of course. Yes.
When he asked that question, one of the guys was like, well, maybe it's a good thing that you like found somebody like who isn't like a whore.
You're going to slut shame your wife for sleeping with you.
What the fuck is that about? Like your sex life sucks. Like all of you. Like in my mind, I was like, this sucks. Like you guys can't even solve your own problems because you're so fucking hung up on like being a voice of authority or whatever. Like you're never gonna have a good sex life. Congratulations. Through background check, before I met with him, I actually matched the email on his background check with an email that had sent me death threats like years ago. And so when I first went to go meet him, I was going to go meet someone who had emailed me a death threat, and I didn't know if he like actually knew who I was. My name was just on like this 4chan list in like 2017.
Because you were writing about abortion.
And I also had published something that someone had written about James Woods, and I got credit for like editing this story from Amber Tamblyn. She wrote about how James Woods,
like how when she was a minor.
Yeah, she was a minor like at the mall in LA, James Woods. It was like acting like a predator towards her and her friends. So the James Woods like fan base really went hard on that.
Funny is that like that's the one thing that triggered him is James Woods. Not even Trump.
Yeah, like
not
he
even
was just like, yeah.
Like how dare you go after James Woods?
Surprising, he was a former D1 athlete. I was legally advised not to say what sport he played.
What was interesting about this guy?
What was interesting about this guy? I mean, first of all, contact sports. So brain injury, a lot of concussions, a really significant brain injury, and it showed. Also is now sober, had drug and alcohol problems, that he disclosed all of this on date one. I think he has to do that. I don't know if that's the 12-step.
I'm sober, and you don't have to disclose it. I've gone both ways where I just don't say anything.
He was the one I liked the most because of how much self-reflection he's starting to do now, like later in life. He didn't recognize me. Like it wasn't like when I came, because that's what I was nervous about. I was wondering like, is this, he's going on a date with someone that he like hates or like potentially hates. When I sat down and realized, no, he didn't. That was like kind of a relief. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to learn about him. Who's this guy who sent me death threats? And now he's on this dating app, and his profile was crazy. He drank, first of all, 11 iced coffees in 3 hours, or 2 hours, I would say. And every time I asked him like about politics, he would grab the edge of the table and his legs would start shaking. He's like a 6'4" guy. And the people around us would get kind of, because we were outside on a patio on this date, and he like was fighting, controlling himself, talking about politics. And the question that first triggered him, we weren't even talking about politics. We were talking about like, why did he choose this restaurant? Because I was like, this is a first date, but I've been here on like a 1-year anniversary date. And he was like, oh, like during the pandemic, all I did was go to restaurants by myself and I would keep a list of all my favorite desserts in the city. And I was like, oh, do you make a lot of lists? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, what other kind of lists do you make? He literally said lists about what lies liberal white women tell about Donald Trump. Shakes leg. Like, I'm not kidding. It turned that fast.
You make dessert lists.
Yeah.
What other lists do you
This was
make?
like,
And he's like,
yeah.
liberal fucking.
I'm like, what other kind of lists do you make? I don't know. Maybe he was going to say calzones. It was an Italian restaurant. But he was like truly my favorite person that I went on dates with.
What do you mean favorite? Like just most interesting? Like
most interesting in terms of like he had like 2 different personalities almost. And I asked him, why did you get into like drinking alcohol? Because he told me that. And he said at the beginning of his like high school career, he made an alter ego for his sport, like a really violent, really aggressive alter ego that would allow him to be able to like do more than what's possible, like physically. And that's common. Like you are taught to do that in those sports. This was also the same guy who accidentally spoke in the first person about Donald Trump. And that's another thing, like I ended up having empathy for how violent and aggressive and hateful parts of him were, because he was coached to be that as a kid to win a sport, right? And now he can't control it, and like is seeking out, is in the process of trying to change that part of himself.
Okay, first of all, this motherfucker is making the best latte of all time, okay? Why is this barista looking ass sitting across from Sam Cedar and not talking about how Sam Cedar is not radical enough? Like, this is a card-carrying DSA member in a polyamorous relationship with a non-binary person by the name of Sock. Dudes that look like they own a vinyl collection should not be arguing to defend Donald Trump.
They all had a different white supremacist vibe. One of them was kind of like, he just looked like a Lower East Side guy. I had a guy friend go on this app and make an account just so we could look at the women. These girls looked
Stepford?
worse. Stepford would imply that they had good taste. They look like sorority girls from 2009 who never stopped dressing that way.
Wait.
Okay, what ages were they?
Okay, so this was like 20s into 30s, like early 20s into 30s age range.
Were they from New York City or were they like transplants here?
This is okay. They looked like they were from, some of them were like Staten Island, some of them were Jersey, and then some of them were New York City now, but definitely a lot of them are transplants, because I don't think I've ever seen a New Yorker wear like Lily Pulitzer on purpose in 2024.
Well, that was the problem. The problem with
Apps like this?
apps like this. I'm not going to say the app. We're not going to name the
Like
app.
2 years ago, Walter wanted me to go on an app. The app was Date Right that he wanted me to go on, but I was just too uncomfortable. I was like, I don't want to do this for you. Like, I don't want to talk to these men. Like, I'm scared. But that's why, like, props to you for going on an alt-right dating app, because, like, I wasn't even able to do it for him because I was like, I'm so uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to talk to these men.
Like, okay, but do you know the Republican makeup? Like, that is like a meme, right?
Yeah.
Like how Republican.
No, it
like,
is.
But what is it?
It's like,
Like, is it just bad makeup?
it's
Like,
bad
what-
makeup, but I feel like it's like a little cakey too.
If you're a woman watching this, do you remember in like 2006 to 2020 to 2013 era, we would like straighten our hair to the point where it would like crispy fried ends, like a lot of dead ends. You can tell that the girls on this dating app have no gay friends to tell them that they have a bunch of dead ends on their hair.
When you don't have the gays in your life, you need the alphabet mafia. It's not just the L, the G, the B,
You do.
and sometimes the T.
You
Like you
do.
need the LGB and the T and the QIA. Like you need that whole thing
Yes.
for your fits.
That's actually, I feel like my entire, like my beauty evolution, like the way that I apply growth mindset to my beauty.
Like this? Is that what they were
Yeah, that's what they
wearing?
look like.
Yeah. This is like the MAGA makeup. I don't think this girl's actually MAGA. I think she was just like doing the trend. But there's like a huge trend and they all like,
Wait, send that to me.
yeah, it's all like kind of
Wow.
like smoky, like 2000s.
But like really
vibe.
bad, like not blended. Wait, how do they contour? Oh, wow, that doesn't even match her skin tone.
She's doing blackface.
No, it's Trump face.
This makeup style is from 2006.